Hello, thank you for watching. I'm Michael Bruner of Brogan Video. Today I want to talk about how to focus on what's in the frame, especially when conducting interviews. Because doing interviews can be uniquely challenging. You need to have a clear idea of exactly what you're doing at front, and you need to stick to your decisions, such as you don't do all the changes that I've been doing here so far. You don't set up an interview and then reset it up and then change it and then go back. You have to be clear on what you're getting in frame, and you need to commit right off the bat. It's the only way to be respectful for the people who are on camera. Nobody likes a cameraman constantly changing his mind. So today, I'd like to talk about how to keep things correct in the frame. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Bruner of Brogan Video. Since 95% of the videos out there are just interview single shots, it is very important to make sure that you put them in the right part of the frame. Don't put them too far to the side, and don't put them dead on center. It can be a little intimidating, like the people are trying to stare down the camera. I always prefer people at about a 15-degree off angle so that they can gesture a little bit to the camera when they need to, but they can also really put their energy out in a way that doesn't feel like I'm screaming right at the camera. Always place them correctly. Always have what they call action space. If I'm talking and if I'm gesticulating out here, make sure that this area here is clear. This area is not as important. Always put the talent in a very comfortable place, let them know how much they can move, and just trust them to do their job. The background of your video is absolutely essential and needs to be decided on ahead of time, even if you're using a green screen. I have worked with a lot of people who have created videos where they were very happy with their presentation, their delivery, what they were asked to say, how they looked, everything. But the background bothered them. They didn't like that it was too distracting or that it didn't really fit what they were saying, so the whole thing had to be scrapped. Now, the fun balancing act is that you don't want it to be too boring. If you put everyone with a solid white background or any color, that is boring and is probably not going to draw people in. Whereas too busy, of course, is too much of a problem. So you want just a little distracting, an appropriate amount, something that will draw the eye naturally to the person on camera without drawing too much attention to what's happening back there. And I also say, please avoid those awful digital filters that will artificially blur the background. It's fine on Zoom, but it really doesn't look good here. Extra elements of the video can go a long way to proving someone's professionalism and just make them a little bit more relatable. How many times have you watched YouTube videos where people are talking directly into a professional microphone like this? I usually prefer to have it out of shot, but I definitely appreciate having it there. It makes you feel like this is someone who has their own studio. This is someone who's clearly thought out what they have to say and know what they're talking about. So I want to listen. Having little props in your hand, like my favorite little camera here, is also a nice touch. But anything that you can add, including something as simple as putting your business cards just in frame. When I talk about lighting, I'm not just talking about raising the illumination in the room so that your face is easily visible. That's the obvious part. I'm talking about using light in a way to accentuate what you are meant to see and how you're supposed to feel about it. Now, if you just raise the light everywhere, then the background might very well be a lot brighter than the main subject. And you don't want that. You want them to be the most contrasty, the most saturated, and the most sharp, so that they stand out and your eye is immediately drawn to them. You also want to think about the quality of the light. There are a lot of people who work with their hands, work in really tough jobs, and they can look good with harsh light like Clint Eastwood so that they looks really tough. But for most people, you want a nice soft all-around lighting. Right now I'm being lit by 4 lights, and I have to be very careful because of like my hat. I love my hat, but it can very easily put my eyes in shadow. So I always have to make sure to keep the lights low enough that my face is well illuminated. And it's always a juggling act between the available lights in any location and the lights that you bring. You always need lights, always. But if you're clever about where you shoot your video, you could easily get away with the smallest light, just to add a little bit more warmth to your face. That's all you need sometimes. When you're working with people on camera, one of the first questions they'll have is, where do you want me to look? And I often find that people really don't like it when you say, look right into the camera. They get it and usually don't complain, but looking into the camera is not fun. There's something about that black lens that just is unnerving. Animals will just stare at it, not being able to figure out quite what it is. Babies will just stare at it, not being able to figure out quite what it is. So many times, I'll cheat. If I want someone to sound really good and confident, but they're having a hard time looking at the lens, I'll stand right behind the camera and I'll say, just talk to me. And they'll just be looking, instead of right there, they'll be looking there. And if you can tell, the difference is oh so minor, but in their mind, they're having a conversation with the cameraman who's standing right there. They can largely ignore the lens. It makes it so much easier. And I feel that many times when people are telling a story that isn't a direct address, it's better if they don't look at the lens. If someone is telling an emotional story of their life and they are talking about it with just great emotional inflection, but they're looking over here, then you're kind of an observer. You're not really involved, and it's not as intense as if I'm looking right at you. No, looking over here. Then it's easier for you just to observe, if that's the goal of what you're going for. Eyes are the most expressive thing we have, and using them correctly and positioning them correctly is probably the biggest part of what you need to focus on for what's in frame. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Bruner of Brogan Video. Remember, at its best, video is a tool for genuine communication between people, as it should be. So, get out there and share your heart.